Shalom, my name is Adam, and I welcome you to the parable of the Vineyard. Every day, Yahweh is waking up a remnant, a group of people who are coming out of deceptions, realizing our walk is to consist of faith and obedience to His righteous commands. Each week, we read through and examine a portion of the Torah, allowing the Spirit of the Most High to guide, teach, and open our eyes and ears to the wondrous matters out of His law. Join us as we seek to be refined by His Word, preparing ourselves for the return of our King of Kings, being faithful and obedient, walking in His way, truth, and life. Shabbat Shalom, family, and welcome back. Welcome back to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube Torah portions. We are in week 10 already, Miketz, which is in the end, and it's still centered around Joseph, and quite a few things to go over. We've got Pharaoh's dream, the interpretation. Joseph gets lifted out of prison into kingship, essentially, second to the king. So much. There's so much we can learn from Joseph on this, as far as patience and enduring, and as he says, Yahweh lifts the man up out of the dunghill. So anyways, just so much. It's just a great patriarch for us to learn from. And man, anyways, so the only thing that's bad about this is we're almost done with Genesis already. How are we already here? I can't believe it. We're 10 weeks into the Torah portion already, but I guess just time flies when you're having fun. So let's get right into it. We're going to it's just a quick opening prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For thine is the kingdom and the glory forever and ever. Amen and amen. Let's get right into it. We're in Genesis 41, and we got a lot of cross-referencing to go in. We're going to be cross-referencing the book of Jasher, the Targums, the Septuagint, and to get the full breadth of the story. This might be a long one. We've got quite a bit of reading to do because Jasher is long-winded, but you know what? I want on this Torah portion cycle, and probably for the rest of them, I want all the details. I want to learn it all, and that's what we're gonna do. And that's the great thing about the book of Jasher, is it gives us all the little details that really the Torah kind of just it cruises through all these stories. But Jasher kind of slows it down and gives us more details, and actually the Targums as well. It seemed like a lot of things were cut out after the time of the Targums. So here we go, Genesis 41:1. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favored kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favored and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favored and lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favored fat kine, and so Pharaoh woke. And he slept and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of grain came up on the stalk, rank and good, tall and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them, and the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears, and Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his ruach was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim and all the wise men thereof, and Pharaoh told him of his dream, but there was none that could interpret the dream unto Pharaoh. This sounds a lot like what happened with Nebuchadnezzar in his dream, right? But the difference was Nebuchadnezzar didn't tell them the dream. He's like, I'm gonna know that you know my dream if you can tell me what my dream is. And they're like, nobody could do this. So while this was a tough scenario for, and what we'll find out here, very much like with Nebuchadnezzar. We actually don't see it here, but Pharaoh said that if nobody can interpret it, he was going to kill all the wise men, all the sorcerers, and everybody. We don't see that here, but we'll see that in Jasher. Then spoke the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with the servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he, and we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was there with us a young man, an LBRY, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted us our dreams, to each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto my office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Elohim shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And so this is where anytime somebody notices something good in our life or recognizes something, an accomplishment, achievement, give Yah the glory and everything. Because guess what? He probably had something to do with it. Okay, no, he definitely had something to do with it. So give him the glory. Don't take it for your own. Don't be stingy with that. Don't be stingy with that stuff. Okay, so for these 16 verses, Jasher has 2 chapters for. So let's expound and see what Jasher has to say. Jasher chapter 48. In those days after the death of the Yitzchak, Yahweh commanded and caused a famine upon the whole earth. At that time Pharaoh king of Egypt was sitting upon his throne in the land of Egypt, and lay in his bed and dreamed dreams. And Pharaoh saw in his dream that he was standing by the side of the river. And actually, we'll skip this because they dream is the exact same. There's no extra details. Okay. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed dreams, and there is none to interpret them. And they said unto the king, Relate thy dreams to thy servants, and let us hear them. And the king related his dreams to them. And they all answered and said with one voice to the king, May the king live forever. And this is the interpretation of thy dreams. The 7 good kine which thou didst see denote 7 daughters that will be born unto thee in the latter days. And the 7 kine which thou sawest come up after them and swallow them up are for a sign that the daughters which will be born unto thee will all die in the lifetime of the king. And that which thou didst see in the second dream of 7 full good ears of corn coming up on one stalk, this is their interpretation, that thou wilt build unto thyself in the latter days 7 cities throughout the land of Egypt. And that which thou sawest of the 7 blasted ears of corn springing up after them and swallowing them up, whilst thou did behold them with thine eyes, it is for a sign that the cities which thou wilt build will all be destroyed in the latter days in the lifetime of the king. And when they spoke these words, the king did not incline his ears to their words, neither did he fix his heart upon them, for the king knew in his wisdom that they did not give a proper interpretation of his dreams. He knew they were lying. And when they had finished speaking before the king answered them, saying, What is this thing that you have spoken unto me? Surely you have uttered falsehood and spoken lies. Therefore now give the proper interpretation of thy dreams, that you may not die. And the king commanded after this, and he sent and called again for other wise men, and they came and stood before the king. And the king related his dreams to them, and they all answered him according to the first interpretation. And the king's anger was kindled, and he was very wroth. And the king said unto them, Surely you speak lies and utter falsehood in what you have said. And the king commanded that a proclamation should be issued throughout the land of Egypt, saying, It is resolved by the king and his great men, that any wise man who knoweth and understandeth the interpretation of dreams, and will not come this day before the king, shall die. And the man that will declare unto the king the proper interpretation of his dreams, there shall be given unto him all that he will require from the king. And all the wise men of the land of Egypt came before the king, together with all the magicians and sorcerers that were in Egypt, and in Goshen, and in Rameses, and Tahaphanes, and Zoar, and all the places in the borders of Egypt, and they all stood before the king. And all the nobles and the princes and the attendants belonging to the king came together from all the cities of Egypt. And they all sat before the king, and the king related his dreams before the wise men and the princes. And all that sat before the king were astonished at this vision. And all the wise men who were before the king were greatly divided in their interpretation of his dreams. Some of them interpreted to the king, saying, The 7 good kine are 7 kings, who from the king's issue will be raised over Egypt. And the 7 bad kine are 7 princes, who will stand up against them in the latter days, and destroy them. And the 7 ears of corn are the 7 great princes belonging to Egypt, who will fall in the hands of the 7 less powerful princes of their enemies in the wars of the Lord of our King. Anyways, a bunch of lies. We'll skip all the lies. It's not really relevant. It's all a bunch of lies. Okay. And the king heard all the words of the wise men of Egypt and their interpretation of his dreams, and none of them pleased the king. And the king knew in his wisdom that they did not altogether speak correctly in all these words, for it was from Yahweh to frustrate the words of the wise men of Egypt, in order that Joseph might go forth from the house of confinement, and in order that he should become great in Egypt. And the king saw that none amongst all the wise men and magicians of Egypt spoke correctly to him, and the king's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him. And the king commanded that all the wise men and magicians should go out from before him, and they all went out from before the king with shame and disgrace. And the king commanded that a proclamation be sent throughout Egypt to slay all the magicians that were in Egypt, and none of them should be suffered to live. So here, again, just like Nebuchadnezzar, except Nebuchadnezzar made it a little harder. He's like, I'm not even going to tell you the dream. He's like, if you're the sorcerer or wise man, you tell me my dream. Right? And they were like, nobody can do this. But Elohim could, and he gave it to Daniel. Anyways, and the captains of the guards belonging to the kings of Egypt rose up, and each man drew his sword, and they began to smite the magicians of Egypt and the wise men. And after this, Merod, chief butler to the king, came and bowed down before the king and sat before him. And the butler said unto the king, May the king live forever, and his government be exalted in the land. Thou wast angry with thy servant in those days, now 2 years past, and didst place me in the ward, and I was for some time in the ward, and I and the chief of the bakers. And there was with us a Hebrew servant belonging to the captain of the guard. His name was Joseph, for his master had been angry with him and placed him in the house of confinement, and he attended us there. And in some time after, when we were in the ward, we dreamed dreams in one night, and I and the chief of the bakers. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And we came in the morning and told them to that servant, and he interpreted to us our dreams, each man according to his dream. Did he correctly interpret? And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so was the event. There fell not to the ground any of his words. And now, therefore, my lord and king, do not slay the people of Egypt for naught. Behold, that slave is still confined in the house by the captain of the guard, his master, in the house of confinement. If it pleaseth the king, let him send for him, that he may come before thee, and he will make known to thee the correct interpretation of the dream which thou didst dream. And the king heard the words of the chief butler, and the king ordered that the wise men of Egypt should not be slain. And the king ordered his servants to bring Joseph before him. And the king said unto them, Go to him, and do not terrify him, lest he be confused and will not know to speak properly. And all the servants of the king went to Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and the king's servants shaved him, and he changed his prison garments, and he came before the king. And the king was sitting upon his royal throne in a princely dress girt around with a golden ephod, and the fine gold which was upon it sparkled, and the carbuncle, and the ruby, and the emerald, together with all the precious stones that were upon the king's head, dazzled the eye, and Joseph wondered greatly at the king. And the throne which upon the king sat was covered with gold and silver, and with onyx stones, and it had 70 steps. This is where it gets really interesting, the 70 steps. Some of you already know where I'm going, or where this is going. And it was their custom throughout the land of Egypt that every man who came to speak to the king, if he was a prince or one that was estimable in the sight of the king, he ascended to the king's throne as far as the 31st step. And the king would ascend to the 36th step and speak with him. If he was one of the common people, he ascended to the 3rd step, and the king would descend to the fourth and speak to him. And their custom was, moreover, that any man who understood to speak in all the 70 languages, he ascended the 70 steps and went up and spoke till he reached the king. And any man who could not complete the 70, he ascended as many steps as the languages which he knew to speak in. And it was customary in those days in Egypt that no one should reign over them, but who understood to speak in the 70 languages. And when Joseph came before the king, he bowed down to the ground before the king, and he ascended to the 3rd step. And the king sat upon the 4th step and spoke with Joseph. And the king said unto Joseph, I dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter to interpret it properly. And I commanded this day that all the magicians of Egypt and the wise men thereof should come before me, and I related my dreams to them, and no one has properly interpreted them to me. And after this day I heard concerning thee that thou art a wise man, and canst correctly interpret every dream that thou hearest. And Yosef answered Pharaoh, saying, Let Pharaoh relate his dreams that he dreamed. Surely the interpretations belong to Elohim. And Pharaoh related his dreams to Yosef, the dream of the kine and the dream of the ears of corn, and left off speaking. And so I'm going to pause there, and we'll pick back up here, because I don't want to get ahead of the Torah. And Pharaoh, okay, so Genesis 41:17. And Pharaoh said unto El Yosef, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favored, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favored, and lean-fleshed, and such as I never saw in all the land of Mitzrayim for badness. And the lean and ill-favored kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine, and when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them up, because they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up, one stalk, full and good, and behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears, and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it unto me. And Yosef said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. The dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favored kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Elohim is about to do, he shows unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Mitzrayim, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Mitzrayim, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that dream, and that dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by Elohim, and Elohim will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore, let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Mitzrayim. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and to take up the 5th part of the land of Mitzrayim in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food in those good years that come, and lay up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them guard food in the cities, and that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Mitzrayim, that the land perish not through the famine. And so, really interesting, that it's so interesting that a lot of the times what is going on in the Torah portion is very relevant to right now. And I really hated sharing the dream. I shared a dream with y'all last week. If you haven't seen it, I was very reluctant. I actually wasn't going to share it because I have quite a few dreams, and I just don't share them because I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're from Yah or not. The last one I had, though, I shared it because I felt like even if this dream wasn't from Yah, I think what we can glean from it is just good advice, anyways. And so, long story short, I dreamed that that technology essentially wasn't going to be around for us much longer, and I urged everybody to get physical copies of the scriptures. Because long story short, I was trying to read scriptures for everybody, and I was trying to read my CEPHER app like I normally do, and like all the words disintegrated, and the app stopped working, and I was like, that's weird. And so I was like, and I wanted to read Hosea 6. I was like, does anybody have scriptures or a phone I can use? My phone's not working. So, and someone else grabbed me their phone and theirs wasn't working, and someone else and it wasn't working. And so I woke up and I immediately thought of needing to prepare to have physical copies of everything you want to read if the power goes out or the internet goes down or whatever. And I wasn't gonna I even wasn't gonna share it, but I had 2 witnesses came to me that week saying the same thing without me even mentioning it. So I'm like, okay, all right. So I shared it. So anyways, point being though, this is a time of preparation. And I think looking at the advice of Yosef for when we know, Yahweh has shown us that perilous times are here in the spiritual, but physically perilous times are coming soon. So we should prepare, and we should prepare by having our life in order with Yahweh. That's the most important thing, by being reconciled to him through his Son and believing what his Son has done for us, keeping the commandments of the Most High with all of our heart, soul, and mind, and doing that in spirit and truth, but also having physical copies of scriptures. Sorry. But also having, physical necessities, food, water, have a little bit stored up. this is interesting timing that we're talking about Yosef, and he's talking about preparing for, the coming tough days. So we're just going to finish out 41, and then we're going to read the rest of Jasher. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And so sorry for burping in the microphone. I don't know where that came from. So sorry. This microphone picks up everything, so I know you heard that. It's very rude. Sorry. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, can we find such as one as this man in whom the Ruach Elohim is? And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, for as much as Elohim has showed you all this, there is none so discreet and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and according to your word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, see, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it on Yosef's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh said unto Yosef, I am Pharaoh, and without you shall no man lift up his hand or his foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh called Yosef's name Sophanath Paneach, which we actually get revealed in the Targums means revealer of the mysteries. We'll read it here in a sec, actually. And he gave him to be his woman Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Yosef went out over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Yosef was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Mitzrayim. And Yosef went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went through all the land of Mitzrayim. And we'll stop there. Okay. Now let's finish up Jasher. So now we're back here. He's in front of the king. And Yosef was then clothed with the spirit of Elohim before the king, and he knew all the things that would befall the king from that day forward. And he knew the proper interpretation of the king's dream, and he spoke before the king. And Yosef found favor in the sight of the king, and the king inclined his ears and his heart, and he heard all the words of Yosef. And Yosef said unto the king, do not imagine that they are two dreams, for it is only one dream. For that which Elohim has chosen to do throughout the land, he has shown to the king in his dream, and this is the proper interpretation of thy dream. The 7 good kine and the ears of corn are 7 years. The 7 bad kine and the ears of the corn are also 7 years. It is one dream. Let's see. Actually, here we go. It's all repeated. It's all repeated. Let all the inhabitants of the land also order that they should gather in every man the produce of his field, all sorts of food, during the 7 good years, that they place in it their stores, that it may be found for them in the days of the famine, that they may live upon it. This is the proper interpretation of thy dream. This is the counsel given to save thy soul and the souls of all thy subjects. And the king answered and said unto Yosef, who saith and who knoweth that all thy words are correct? And he saith unto the king, this shall be a sign for thee respecting all my words. Right, so he's a prophet, right? So he's going to show he's a prophet, that they are true, and that my advice is good for thee. Behold, thy wife sitteth this day upon the stool of delivery, and she will bear thee a son, and thou wilt rejoice with him, when thy child shall have gone forth from his mother's womb. Thy firstborn son that has been born these 2 years back shall die, and thou wilt be comforted in the child that will be born unto thee this day. And Yosef finished speaking these words to the king, and he bowed down to the king, and he went out. And when Yosef had gone out from the king's presence, those signs which Yosef had spoken unto the king came to pass on that day. And the queen bare a son on that day, and the king heard the glad tidings about his son. And he rejoiced, and when the reporter had gone forth from the king's presence, the king's servants found the firstborn son of the king fallen dead upon the ground. And there was great lamentation and noise in the king's house. And the king heard it, and he said, what is the noise and lamentation that I have heard in the house? And they told the king that his firstborn son had died. Then the king knew that all Joseph's word that he had spoken were correct. And the king was consoled for his son by the child that was born unto him that day, as Joseph had spoken. So now chapter 49, we're going to read till verse 30. After these things the king sent and assembled all his officers and servants and all the princes and nobles belonging to the king, and they all came before the king. And the king said unto them, behold, you have seen and heard all the words of this Hebrew man, and all the signs which he declared would come to pass, and not any of his words have fallen to the ground. You know that he has given a proper interpretation of the dream, and it will surely come to pass. Now therefore, Take counsel and know what you will do and how the land will be delivered from the famine. Seek now and see whether the like can be found, in whose heart there is wisdom and knowledge, and I will point him over the land. For you have heard what the Hebrew man has advised concerning this, to save the land therewith from the famine. And I know that the land will not be delivered from the famine, but with the advice of the Hebrew man, him that he advised me. And they all answered the king and said, The counsel which the Hebrew has given concerning this is good. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, the whole land is in thy hand. Do that which seemeth good in thy sight. Him who thou choosest, and whom thou in thy wisdom knoweth to be wise and capable of delivering the land with his wisdom, him shall the king appoint to be under him over the land. And the king said to all the officers, I have thought that since Elohim has made known to the Hebrew man all that he has spoken, there is none so discreet and wise in the whole land as he is. If it seem good in your sight, I will place him over the land, for he will save the land with his wisdom. And all the officers answered the king and said, But surely it is written in the laws of Egypt, and it should be not violated, that no man shall reign over Egypt, nor be the second to the king, but one who has knowledge in all the languages of the sons of men. Now therefore, our Lord and King, behold, this Hebrew man can only speak the Hebrew language, and how then can he be over us, the second under government, a man who not even knoweth our language? Now we pray thee, send for him, and let him come before thee, and prove him in all things, and do as thou see fit. And the king said, It shall be done tomorrow, and the thing that you have spoken is good. And all the officers came on that day before the king. And on that night Yahweh sent one of his ministering angels, and he came into the land of Egypt unto Joseph. And the angel of Yahweh stood over Joseph, and behold, Joseph was lying in bed at night in his master's house in the dungeon, for his master had put him back into the dungeon on account of his wife. And the angel, I want you to listen closely to this, because there's something in the canon that completely confirms the book of Jasher. And the angel roused him from his sleep, and Joseph rose up and stood upon his legs, and behold, the angel of Yahweh was standing opposite to him. And the angel of Yahweh spoke with Joseph, and he taught him all the languages of man in that night, and he called his name Yehuseph. And the angel of Yahweh went from him, and Joseph returned and lay upon his bed, and Joseph was astonished at the vision which he saw. So isn't it interesting? There's probably a scripture that you never took note of before. I think it's 81:5. Yeah. Psalm 81:5. This he ordained in Joseph for testimony when he went through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not. This he ordained in Yehuseph. Oh, wait. Where is it? Yeah. Anyways, so here you have, right, where he understood a language that he had not heard. I guess maybe it's in the CEPHER. It's a little bit different. Hold on. I never read it in the King Jimmy. I guess it's a little more clear. Yeah. In the CEPHER it reads, this he ordained in Yehuseph, which is the name Yehoseph or Yehuseph. So the CEPHER reads, this he ordained in Yehuseph for a testimony when he went through the land of Mitzrayim, where he heard a language that he did not understand. So I thought that was pretty interesting that the book of Jasher, again, it doesn't really do its justice in the KJV, but in the CEPHER, it makes a lot of sense. It connects those two verses. It connects the book of Jasher, because there's no other explanation other than Jasher about Joseph being renamed to Yehuseph and learning a strange language. So verse 16, and it came to pass in the morning that the king sent for all his officers and servants, and they all came and sat before the king. And the king ordered Joseph to be brought, and the king's servants went and brought Joseph before Pharaoh. And the king came forth and ascended the steps of the throne, and Joseph spoke unto the king in all the languages. And Joseph went up to him and spoke unto the king until he arrived before the king in the 70th step. And he sat before the king. And the king greatly rejoiced on account of Joseph, and all the king's officers rejoiced greatly with the king when they heard all the words of Joseph. So how awesome! In one night, the angel of Yahweh taught him all 70 languages. And Joseph's like, boom, 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 boom. Hey, Pharaoh, how's it going? And they're all like, yeah! And the thing seemed good in the sight of the king and the officers to appoint Joseph to be second to the king over the whole land of Egypt. And the king spoke to Joseph, saying, now thou didst give me counsel to appoint a wise man over the land of Egypt in order with his wisdom to save the land of the famine. Now therefore, since Elohim has made all this known to thee, and all the words which thou hast spoken, there is not throughout the land a discreet and wise man like unto thee. And thy name shall no more be called Joseph, but Zaphanath Paneah shall be thy name. And thou shalt be second to me, and according to thy word shall be all thy affairs of my government, and at thy word shall my people come in or go out and come in. Also from under thy hand shall my servants and officers receive their salary, which is given to them month. I think actually all the rest of this is the same. Yeah. Well, let's read this. And the king commanded that all that played upon timbrels and harps and other musical instruments should go forth with Joseph 1,000 timbrels, 1,000 mecholoth, and 1,000 nebalim went after him, and 5,000 men with drawn swords glittering in their hands. And they went marching and playing before Joseph, and 20,000 of the great men of the king, girt with girdles of skin covered with gold, marched at the right hand of Joseph, and 20,000 at his left. And all the women and damsels went up upon the roofs and stood in the streets, playing and rejoicing at Joseph, and gazed at the appearance of Joseph and at his beauty. And the king's people went before him and behind him, perfuming the road with frankincense and cassia, and with all sorts of fine perfume, and scattered myrrh and aloes along the road. And 20 men proclaimed these words before him throughout the land in a loud voice, do you see this man whom the king has chosen to be his second? All the affairs of the government shall be regulated by him. And he that transgresses his orders, or that does not bow down before him to the ground, shall die, for he rebels against the king and his second. And when the heralds had ceased proclaiming, all the people of Egypt bowed down to the ground before Joseph and said, may the king live, also may his second live. And all the inhabitants of Egypt bowed down along the road. And when the heralds approached them, they bowed down, and they rejoiced with all sorts of timbrels and mechol and nebal before Joseph. And Joseph upon his horse lifted up his eyes to heaven, and called out and said, he raiseth the poor man from the dust, he lifteth up the needy from the dunghill. O Yahweh Sabaoth, happy is the man who trusteth in thee. And if we can learn anything else from Joseph, happy is the man who has patient hope and trusts in Yahweh, because wow, was Joseph patient, being in that jail cell for years upon years, and then he gets lifted up from the dunghill. Amazing stuff. Truly amazing stuff. Okay, and let's just finish here. Genesis 41:7. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Mitzrayim, and laid up the food in the cities, the food of the field which was round about every city, he laid up the same. And Joseph gathered grain as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim, said he, has made me forget all my toil in all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Mitzrayim were ended. And the 7 years of famine began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the famine was in all the lands, but in all the land of Mitzrayim there was bread. And when all the land of Mitzrayim was famished, the people cried unto Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said unto all the Mitzrayim, go unto El Joseph, what he says to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses, and sold unto the Mitzrayim. And the famine waxed sore in the land of Mitzrayim. And all the countries came into Mitzrayim to El Joseph for to buy grain, because that the famine was so sore in all the lands. Oh, and let's see, the Targums. Let's see, it says... No. I can't see where it is, but essentially Pharaoh named him the man who who reveals wisdom or reveals secrets. I forgot to make a note of where it was, so it's okay. Not a big deal. But not a lot different in the Targums on that chapter. Okay, so let's go to chapter 42. Now when Yaakov saw that there was grain in Mitzrayim, Yaakov said unto his sons, Why do you look one upon another? And he said, Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Mitzrayim. Get you down thither, and buy for us from thence, that we may live and not die. And Joseph's 10 brethren went down to buy grain in Mitzrayim. But Benjamin, Joseph's brother, Yaakov sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest perchance mischief befall him. And the sons of Jasher came to buy grain among those that came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land. And he it was that sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brethren came and bowed down themselves before him with their faces to the earth. And so, yeah, Joseph's dream came true. Now let's read the backstory actually with... let's read the backstory with Jasher. All right, so we're going to read 50. No. 50, starting at verse 30. Okay. And all the inhabitants of the land of Canaan, and the Philistines, and those beyond the Jordan, and the children of the east, and all the cities of the lands far and nigh, heard that there was corn in Egypt, and they all came to Egypt to buy corn, or grain. For the famine prevailed over them. And Joseph opened the stores of corn and placed officers over them, and they daily stood and sold all that came. And Joseph knew that his brethren also would come to Egypt to buy corn, for the famine prevailed throughout the earth. And Joseph commanded all his people that they should cause it to be proclaimed throughout all the land of Egypt, saying, It is the pleasure of the king, of his second, and of their great men, that any person who wishes to buy corn in Egypt shall not send his servants to Egypt to purchase, but his sons, and also any Egyptian or Canaanite who shall come from any of the stores from buying corn in Egypt, and shall go and sell it throughout the land, he shall die, for no one shall buy but the support of his household. And this is just more proof to me of how I know Jasher is correct, because the scripture, the Torah doesn't explain it, and like it doesn't need to, because Yahweh knew that he would have this book to fill all the details in. But you ask yourself, if this decree wasn't placed forth, which basically it says, you can't send your servants to go buy you food. Your sons are going to come buy the food, and you can't go around and resell it. If you do, you're going to die. So otherwise they would have just sent servants to go buy the food, but they didn't. He sent his sons because it was decreed that way. And any man leading 2 or 3 beasts shall die, for a man shall only lead his own beast. And Joseph placed sentinels at the gates of Egypt, and commanded them, saying, Any person who may come to buy corn, suffer him not to enter until his name, and the name of his father, and the name of his father's father be written down. And whatever is written by day, send their names unto me in the evening, that I may know their names. And Joseph placed officers throughout the land of Egypt, and he commanded them to do all these things. And Joseph did all these things, and made these statutes, in order that he might know when his brethren should come to Egypt to buy corn. And Joseph's people caused it daily to be proclaimed in Egypt according to the words and statutes which Joseph had commanded. And all the inhabitants of the east and the west country and all the earth heard the statutes and regulations which Joseph had enacted in Egypt. And all the inhabitants of the extreme parts of the earth came, and they bought corn in Egypt day after day, and they went away. And all the officers of Egypt did as Joseph had commanded, and all that came to Egypt to buy corn, the gatekeepers would write down their names and their fathers' names, and daily bring them in the evening before Joseph. Jasher chapter 51. And Yaakov afterward heard that there was corn in Egypt, and he called unto his sons to go to Egypt to buy corn. For upon them also did the famine prevail, and he called unto his sons, saying, Behold, I hear that there is corn in Egypt, and all the people of the earth go there to purchase. Now therefore, why will you show yourselves satisfied before the whole earth? Go you also down to Egypt, and buy us a little corn amongst those that come there, that we may not die. And the sons of Yaakov hearkened to the voice of their father, and they rose up to go down to Egypt in order to buy corn amongst the rest that came there. And Yaakov their father commanded them, saying, When you come into the city, do not enter together in one gate, on account of the inhabitants of the land. And the sons of Yaakov went forth, and they went to Egypt. And the sons of Yaakov did all as their father had commanded them. And Yaakov did not see Benjamin. Yaakov did not send Benjamin, for he said, lest an accident might befall him in the road like his brother. And the 10 of Yaakov's sons went forth. And whilst the sons of Yaakov were going on the road, they repented of what they had done to Joseph. And they spoke to each other, saying, We know that our brother Joseph went down to Egypt, and now we will seek him where we go. And if we find him, we will take him from his master for a ransom, and if not, by force, and we will die for him. The sons of Yaakov agreed to this thing and strengthened themselves on account of Joseph to deliver him from the hand of his master. And the sons of Yaakov went to Egypt, and when they came near to Egypt, they separated from each other, and they came through 10 gates of Egypt. And the 10 gatekeepers wrote their names on that day and brought them to Joseph in the evening. And Joseph read the names from the hand of the gatekeepers of the city, and he found that his brethren had entered at 10 gates of the city. And Joseph at that time commanded that it should be proclaimed throughout the land of Egypt, saying, Go forth all you store guards, and close all the corn stores, and let only one remain open, that those who come may purchase from it. And all the officers of Joseph did so at that time, and they closed all the stores, and left only one open. And Joseph gave the written names of his brethren to him that was set over the open store. And he said to him, Whosoever shall come to thee to buy corn, ask his name. And when men of these names shall come before thee, seize them and send them to me. And they did so. And when the sons of Yaakov came into the city, they joined together in the city to seek Joseph before they bought themselves corn. And they went to the walls of the harlots, and they sought Joseph in the walls of the harlots for 3 days. For they thought that Joseph would come into the walls of the harlots, for Joseph was very comely and well favored. And the sons of Yaakov sought Joseph for 3 days, and they could not find him. So basically what they're saying is, because he's a good-looking guy, they figured that he would have been sold into harlotry. And the man who was set over the open store sought for those names which Joseph had given him, and he did not find them. And he sent to Joseph, saying, These 3 days have passed, and those men whose names thou didst give me have not come. And Joseph sent servants to seek the men in all Egypt, and to bring them before Joseph. And Joseph's servants went and came into Egypt, and they could not find them, and went to Goshen, and they were not there. And then went to the city of Ramesses, and could not find them. And Joseph continued to send 16 servants to seek his brothers. And they went and spread themselves into the 4 corners of the city. And 4 of the servants went into the house of the harlots, and they found the 10 men there seeking their brother. And those 4 men took them and brought them before him, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And Joseph was sitting upon his throne in his temple, clothed with princely garments, and upon his head was a large crown of gold, and all the mighty men were sitting around him. We'll stop there because that's where we ended the Torah portion, or the Torah. And Joseph saw his, so Genesis 42:7, and Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but he made himself strange unto them, and spoke roughly unto them. And he said unto them, Whence come ye? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy food. And Joseph knew his brethren, but they knew him not. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he dreamed of them, and said unto them, Ye are spies, to see the nakedness of the land are ye come. And they said unto him, Nay, my lord, but to buy food are your servants come. We are all one man's sons, we are true men, your servants are no spies. And he said unto them, Nay, but to see the nakedness of the land ye are come. And they said, Your servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And Joseph said unto them, That is it that I spoke unto you, saying, Ye are spies. Hereby shall ye be proved, by the life of Pharaoh, shall ye not go forth hence, except your youngest brother come hither. Send one of you, and let him fetch your brother, and ye shall be kept in prison, that your words may be proved, whether there be any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely ye are spies. And he put them all together into ward 3 days. And Joseph said unto them the 3rd day, This do and live, for I fear Elohim. If ye be true men, let one of your brethren be bound in the house of your prison. Go ye, carry grain for the famine of your houses. But bring your youngest brother unto me, so shall your words be verified, and ye shall not die. And they did so. And they said one to another, We are truly guilty concerning our brother, and that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us. And we would not hear, therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Spoke I not unto you, saying, Do not sin against the child, and ye would not hear. Therefore, behold, also his blood is required. And they knew not that Joseph understood them, for he spoke unto them by an interpreter. And he turned himself about from them, and wept, and returned to them again, and communed with them, and took from them Shimon, and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph commanded to fill their sacks with grain, and to restore every man's money into his sack, and to give them provision for the way. And thus he did unto them. And they laded their asses with the grain, and departed thence. And as one of them opened his sack to give his ass provender in the inn, he espied his money, for behold, it was in his sack's mouth. And he said unto his brethren, My money is restored, and lo, it is even in my sack. And their heart failed them, and they were afraid, saying one to another, What is this that Elohim has done unto us? And they came unto Yaakov their father, unto the land of Canaan, and told him all that befell unto them, saying, The man who is the Lord of the land spoke roughly unto us, and took us for spies of the country. And we said unto him, We are true men, we are no spies. We be 12 brethren, sons of our father. One is not, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the Lord of the country, said unto us, Hereby shall I know that ye are true men. Leave one of your brethren here with me, and take the food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother unto me, then shall I know that ye are no spies, but that ye are true men, so will I deliver your brother, and ye shall traffic in the land. Do business. And it came to pass, as they emptied their sacks, that behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Yaakov their father said unto them, May have ye bereaved me of my children. Joseph is not, and Shimon is not. And ye will take Binyamin away. All these things are against me. And Reuben spoke unto his father, saying, Slay my 2 sons, if I bring him not unto you. Deliver him into my hand, and I will bring him unto you again. And he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If mischief befall him by the way in which ye go, then ye shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow unto Sheol. All right, let's keep going in Jasher. And the sons of Yaakov saw Joseph, and his figure and his comeliness and the dignity of the countenance seemed wonderful in their eyes. And they again bowed down to him to the ground. And Joseph saw his brethren, and he knew them, but they knew him not. For Joseph was very great in their eyes, therefore they knew him not. And Joseph spoke to them, saying, From whence come ye? And they all answered and said, Thy servants have come from the land of Canaan to buy corn. For the famine prevails throughout the earth, and thy servants heard that there was corn in Egypt. So they have come amongst the other comers to buy corn for their support. And Joseph answered them, saying, If you have come to purchase, as you say, why do you come through 10 gates of the city? It can only be that you have come to spy through the land. And they all together answered Joseph and said, No, not so, my lord. We are right. Thy servants are not spies, but we have come to buy corn. For thy servants are all brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And our father commanded us, saying, When you come into the city, do not enter at one gate on account of the inhabitants of the land. And Joseph again answered them and said, This is the thing which I spoke unto you. You have come to spy through the land. Therefore you all came through the 10 gates of the city. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. Surely everyone that cometh to buy corn goeth his way, and you have already 3 days in the land. You have already been 3 days in the land. And what do you do in the walls of harlots, in which you have been born these 3 days? In which you have been for these 3 days. Surely spies do like unto these things. And they said unto Joseph, Far be it from our Lord to speak thus, for we are 12 brothers, the sons of our father Yaakov, in the land of Canaan, the son of Yitzchak, the son of Abraham, the Hebrew. And behold, the youngest is with our father this day in the land of Canaan, and one is not, for he was lost from us. And we thought perhaps that he might be in this land, so we are seeking him throughout the land, and have come even to the houses of harlots to seek him there. And Joseph said unto them, Have you then sought him throughout the whole earth, that there only remained Egypt for you to seek him? And what also should your brother do in the houses of harlots, although he were in Egypt? Have you not said that you are from the sons of Yitzchak and the sons of Abraham? And what shall the sons of Yaakov do then in the houses of harlots? And they said unto him, Because we heard the Ishmaelites stole him from us, and it was told unto us that they sold him to Egypt. And thy servant, our brother, is very comely and well favored, so we thought that he would surely be in the houses of harlots. Therefore thy servants went there to seek and give him for ransom. And Joseph still answered them, saying, Surely you speak falsely and utter lies. Say of yourselves that you are the sons of Abraham. As Pharaoh liveth, you are spies. Therefore have you come to the house of harlots, that you should not be known. And Joseph said unto them, And now, if you find him, and his master requireth of you a great price, will you give it him? And they said, It shall be given. And he said unto them, If his master will not consent to part with him for a great price, what will you do unto him on his account? And they answered him, saying, If he will not give him unto us, we will slay him and take our brother and go away. And Yosef said unto them, This is the thing which I have spoken to. You are spies, for you are come to slay the inhabitants of the land. For you heard that 2 of your brethren smote all the inhabitants of Shechem in the land of Canaan on account of your sister, and you now come to do the like in Egypt on account of your brother. Only hereby shall I know that you are true men, if you will send home one from amongst you to fetch your youngest brother. Okay, this is all the same. Let's see. And Joseph went out from them and came into his chamber and wept a great weeping, for his pity was excited for them. And he washed his face and returned to them again. And he took Simeon from them and ordered him to be bound. But Simeon was not willing to be done to be so, for he was a very powerful man, and they could not bind him. And Joseph called unto his mighty men, and 70 valiant men came before him with drawn swords in their hands, and the sons of Yaakov were terrified at them. And Joseph said unto them, Seize this man and confine him in prison until his brethren come to him. And Joseph's valiant men hasted, and they all laid hold of Simeon to bind him. And Simeon gave a loud and terrible shriek, and the cry was heard at a distance. And all the valiant men of Joseph were terrified at the sound of the shriek, that they fell upon their faces, and they were greatly afraid and fled. And all the men that were with Joseph fled, for they were greatly afraid of their lives. And only Joseph and Manasseh his son remained there. And Manasseh the son of Joseph saw the strength of Simeon, and he was exceedingly wroth. And Manasseh the son of Joseph rose up to Simeon, and Manasseh smote Simeon a heavy blow with his fist against the back of his neck, and Simeon was stilled of his rage. And Manasseh laid hold of Simeon, and seized him violently, and he bound him, and brought him into the house of confinement. And all the sons of Yaakov were astonished at the act of the youth. And Simeon said unto his brethren, None of you must say that this is the smiting of an Egyptian, but this is the smiting of the house of my father. Okay. The rest is all the same. Yeah. Oh, okay. The rest is the same. Okay. So now we're going to look at the Targum, the 3rd, 4th, and 5th paragraph. 1, 2, 3. And Joseph was ruler over the land. This is the Targums. This is the Aramaic version of the scriptures. And Joseph was ruler over the land, and he knew that his brethren had come to buy, for he had appointed notaries at the gates of the city to register daily every one of who came in, and his name and the name of his father. And it was who sold corn, and it was who sold corn and all the people of the land. So here you have the Targums confirming Jasher, because Jasher is the only one that has the story about the recorders and the names. Anyways. So, and the brethren of Joseph came, and they looked through all the streets and the public places and hospices, but could not find him. And they came into his house and worshipped him with their faces to the ground. And Joseph saw his brethren and recognized them, but he made himself as a stranger in their eyes. And he spake hard words to them and said, Whence come you? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy corn. Now Joseph recognized his brethren, because when separated from them, they had the token of the beard. But they did not recognize him, because at that time he had not the token of the beard, and at this hour he had it. So Joseph was only 17 when they cast him out. So I couldn't grow a beard at 17, but I don't know, like 4 or 5 years, a couple of years later I could. But so yeah, the last time they saw him was when he was 17, and now he's like 37, 38ish maybe, I think. I don't know, just I can't remember exactly. But anyways, so now he's got a beard. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Hold on. Okay. So let's go to chapter 43. And let's see. How long have we gone so far? We're an hour in. How much we got? Man, we got a lot of reading to do. I'm going to have to do a part 2, brothers and sisters. I am worn out. So we're going to do a part 2 to this. And because there's a lot more. I've probably got another hour and a half of reading left. And we've got, yeah. So we're this is perfect. We're halfway through the Torah portion. I want to finish the other half. When are we going to do it? Probably Monday night, Saturday night, I've got a live stream with a couple other brothers. Look out for that. But yeah, we'll finish this Torah portion Monday night. So there's a lot more to go over, so I hope you can join me for part 2 on this. I wanted to make a quick mention of a brother that's very close to me, good friend Noel Hadley. For those of you that are really wanting to learn more about the Targums, as you can see so far, what I do is when I do the Torah portion, I'll kind of just pick out the highlights of where the Targums are a little different. But if you want someone to go over the whole Targum with you, the Targum portion, Noel's doing them, and there's actually a really interesting read there as well. It's called the Unexpected Cosmology. It's theunexpectedcosmology.com. So here's the spelling right here, unexpectedcosmology.com. If you go up here to Torah portions, you'll see he actually he shows our Torah portions down here for video. But he does the Targum portions. But what I found was also really interesting. So here's the Targum Torah portions right here. What I've also found very interesting is this book right here called From the Beginning. And what it does, it's the Holy Bible with the Antiquities of the Jews, which is Josephus writing, Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, in chronicle order, using the King James and the Septuagint side by side. So check this out. So like here, it'll be Genesis 9:8, or it'll just be a little section here, and you'll have the King James, you'll have the Septuagint, which is awesome. And then it'll give you the same section in the Antiquities. It'll give you the Jubilees, the same thing, and then any other book that you can glean anything from. So this is a gem. So it's like here, see this part of Genesis 10. It's got Jasher 7, right, and Jubilee 7. Anyways, the entire Torah is done this way. It's just absolutely amazing. It's called From the Beginning, and it's just a free download. It's a PDF. I would definitely check that out. So pretty cool stuff. So again, the unexpectedcosmology.com. Brother Noel is taking care of that stuff. So anyways, I figure we'll spend the next few minutes. We'll sing. We'll do Kingdom. We're gonna do Song of Moshe or Kingdom Come. I'm gonna check out the stream and see if you all would rather do. Do you want to see? Yeah, Torah means instruction. Yes. And again, I apologize for cutting this one short, but yeah, one of these days, I think I'm going to find a separate night just for the Torah portions because yeah, I guess I've just been going a bit earlier, so I'm tired. And some of these Torah portions are really long, especially when we get into Exodus. I mean, some of these Torah portions are going to be like 3 hours long because I really want to glean everything we can out of these Torah portions. I don't want to sidestep them. So, do you guys want to sing Song of Moshe or do you want to sing Kingdom Come? Excuse me. Oof, it's split again. I can't do shofar blasts. All the children are sleeping. Oh yeah, let me put the link in the chat. Yeah, that book is an amazing download. The Emissary Elohim put up the 613.org. It's a good site. I wouldn't get too tripped up over the 613 number. We found that to be just a Jewish tradition. There's actually a lot more than 613 laws in the Torah. And also, you know what? There's a book y'all need to check out. Stand by. Hold on. I need to show you this. It looks like Kingdom. It looks like Moshe. Moshe's the winner. Okay, we'll do Moshe. Hold on one second. I want to show you this book. Check out this book from the Hallelujah Scriptures team. It's called the Torah of Yahweh. And basically, this is like a beginner's version of understanding the Torah and kind of breaking it down for the the brand new person to the Torah. I love this pie chart they do. I don't know if you can see it, but it breaks down like simply when someone's like, "Oh, you're gonna keep all the Torah," like, "Oh, actually no." As you can see here, like almost a third is just for the high priests. Some are for men, some are for women, some are just for farmers, some are for servants, some is just for marriage, some is for lepers, some is for kings, some is for judges, some is just for the high priest, some is just for the priests, some is just for animals, some are just for living in the land. So it kind of just breaks it down, and so amazing. I can't wait to really dive into this book and share this, but anyways, if you guys want to copy this, I would contact the Hallelujah Scriptures team. So praise Yah for that. So we're going to do Kingdom Come. And yeah. Gabby, I recognize your name. Gabby, I think I already sent yours out. I just wasn't able to respond to everybody like, hey, it's on the way. Hey, it's on the way. But I think, Gabby, your name sounds familiar. Gabby, let me know if you already sent me a request. If you did, then you're the Gabby I'm thinking of, and that went out like 2-3 days ago. Right, that's the point, Julie. Is not all of them are for everybody. Like even Yahusha, even Messiah, couldn't keep all the law because, I mean, he's not going to keep the Torah for for women. And he's not going to keep the Torah for, he just, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, is that even he couldn't keep all the laws because they weren't all for him to keep. Not that he couldn't, it's just he didn't need to because he didn't keep the laws that are just for women and, things like that. So, yeah, okay. I thought I recognized your name, Gabby. Okay, yeah, it's on the way. The name of the book is called The Torah of Yahweh. The other book downloading, it's called, here, let's go back here again. I want to show you. Amazing book. I only got a glance at it before I started the, so again, go to the Unexpected Cosmology, Torah portions, click on here, Genesis. And again, he's got the Targum portion right here. You've got, he puts up my videos. And then right here, it's called From the Beginning. And it pairs up Josephus Antiquities, Enoch, Jasher, Jubilees, in chronological order with using the KJV side by side with Septuagint. So, man, I already downloaded this. I actually want to print. It's 1,100 pages. I would love to have this in print as well. But anyways, so really interesting stuff. Wow, look at this. They got the whole course to the luminary. This is such a treasure. Anyways. All right, so yeah, here we go. There's the link right there. And that's Brother Noel, the unexpectedcollegemology.com. So anyways, yeah, let's sing Kingdom Come, and then I'll just play one other song for you. And yeah, Noel's got some cool stuff. There we go. You ready?
I hear the farmers crying, kingdom come. I see the horrifying things we've done. I want to go way down by the end of the road, all the way to kingdom come. Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth, oh hear me let our needs get met along the way. And most of all I pray you, let your kingdom come. Yeah, kingdom come. Whoa. All our brightest dreams are shadowed by the darkness of the night. I keep watching the horizon for the slightest hint of light. Give us this day, give us this day. Let your kingdom come. Whoa. It's an ancient story that still gets told to those who hear and those who don't, by prophets and trees and things out of the blue. But once that cry has reached your ears, your heart gets filled by what you hear, and what you hear is just the sound of you.